for Jericho. From the islands a shadow falls, a crow masked lad who answers war's calls, with iron will and the business mind, the finest weapons you will ever find.
Welcome back to the dungeon. Cobra Commander is one of the most recognized villains from the 1980s. The two original versions of him are both maniacal in their own right, though some differences are obviously apparent between the cartoon and the comic version. The Commander's psychology, though, at his core, remains constant. So let's dive in. This is not fictional psychology. Cobra Commander's motivations weren't purely fictional. He follows the same psychological patterns we've seen in real-world extremists. And once you see it, well, you can't unsee it. In the Marvel G.I. Joe comics, Cobra Commander isn't played for laughs. He's calculated, ideological, and disturbingly believable. So today, we're breaking down the psychology behind Cobra Commander using real-world behavioral science. Every profile starts with an origin. And before Cobra, he was a failed businessman. He lost his money, his status, his identity, and according to the concept of significance quest theory, which we will revisit later on, states that that kind of loss can push people towards extreme ideologies. Because when someone feels like they've become irrelevant, they don't just want success again, they want to matter. His psychology is rooted in a few concepts that frame his behaviors, such as narcissism and paranoid personality traits. He believes that he, and he alone, understands the system. His own self-view is that of a necessary corrective force to fix a broken world. He believes he deserves this power. The Commander possesses high cognitive function. His portrayal in the cartoon was that of the bumbling buffoon, but for obvious reasons. In the animated features, care had to be taken not to show the seriousness that the comics could, and typically animated versions centered themselves on the villain always losing, and good prevailing. We can't have Coco kicking dogs on the cartoon at 4 p.m. after school on the TV, like he did in Marvel Comics issue number 100, May 1990, titled Seeds of Empire. Cobra Commander doesn't just build an army, he rebuilds himself. But he doesn't do it alone. He creates Cobra as a movement, not just a military force. And this is where real-world patterns start to show up. Leaders like this recruit by turning personal frustration into a shared identity. The system is broken. You've been ignored. We are the solution. This attracts disillusioned followers, which moves from not strictly a militaristic entity, but to an ideological one. That's just not storytelling. That's how real extremist groups grow. The Commander justifies violence as necessary, framing his actions as part of the, quote, greater cause. He dehumanizes his opposition, i.e. G.I. Joe, which allow him to commit extreme acts. Once Cobra is established, his leadership style becomes clear. Total control, zero tolerance for dissent, absolute hierarchy. This is classic authoritarian leadership. And it works, at least for a little while. Because in unstable environments, people often trade freedom for structure, and Cobra Commander gives them exactly that. But there's a pattern that shows up again and again in leaders like this. Paranoia. At first it's strategic. Don't trust outsiders. Then it starts to spread. Don't trust insiders. And eventually, you trust no one. And that's exactly what happens with Cobra Commander. In particular, within his own circle, with Destro and the Baroness, just to name a few. Everyone becomes a potential threat. Russian dictator Stalin, also, as a parallel, was wrought with paranoia and often felt the need to eliminate those threatening his power, even inside his inner circle. Reminiscent of Cobra Commander's contract with Major Blood to eliminate Destro in Marvel Comics issue 15, October 1983, titled Night Attack. But here's the reality. In real-world cases, this is where systems start to break, because when a leader can't trust their own organization, the organization can't function. The same traits that built Cobra begin to destabilize it. Let's revisit the real-world psychology that supports the Commander. We mentioned the significance quest theory earlier. This was developed in 2009 by American psychologist Ari Kruglansky. He posited that the, quote, universal need for significance, social worth, drives individuals towards extreme behavior when they experience a loss of significance or an opportunity to gain it, end quote. There are strong parallels between the commander and the historical dictator Hitler, who aligned strongly with the concepts of the significance quest theory. The German dictator also viewed the world as broken, and that only he could fix it. What does that mean for our beloved Cobra Commander? Simply put, he wants a matter. He abhors the feelings of humiliation, marginalization, and his loss of purpose. This is echoed in his origin background that was told in parts largely across the Marvel Comics run in multiple issues. The Commander is authoritarian and displays some traits of the Dark Triad, which is a trio of malevolent personality traits, including narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. This isn't about one fictional character. These patterns show up in extreme movements, authoritarian regimes, and even cult leadership structures. A personal failure turned into ideology. A movement built on grievance. Control maintained through fear. And eventually undermined by paranoia. Some final thoughts on one of the most iconic villains of the 1980s, in both print and animation. Cobra Commander, like many in the real world, shaped his future based on his perceived personal grievances. His loss of significance, rise through ideology, the gaining of authoritarian control, and traveling further and further down the paranoia rabbit hole ultimately gave us a compelling character. He was not afraid to grandstand and perform even more grandiose schemes in his quest for absolute power, total control of the world, its people, wealth, and resources. That's the objective of Cobra Commander. And that should sound familiar, as it is the description of the man himself, direct from his iconic file card from 1982. This is why Cobra Commander feels real, because psychologically, he is. I appreciate the watch time, and if you enjoyed this content, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Please check out some of my other videos. And coming soon to the series, The Mind of Destro, True Power. Take care. See you next time at the dungeon.
For Destro. From islands a shadow falls, a crow-masked lad who answers war's calls. With iron will and the business mind, the finest weapons you will.